Father, the hour has come, glorify your Son. John 17 verse 1. So Jesus prayed by lifting his eyes to heaven. I'll give you another popular one. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Let's bow our heads in prayer. What if I told you that to the contrary, bowing your head was actually a sign of shame, especially in the traditions in those days? So the Bible tells us, for instance, of a tax collector in Luke 18. Jesus is telling the story himself. He says he stood afar off, verse 13. He would not so much as raise his eyes to heaven. I just showed you from the example of Jesus that raising your eyes to heaven was a more common way to pray at the time. He would not lift his eyes to heaven, but he beat his chest and said, be merciful to me, a sinner. So why did he bow his head? Because he thought he was a sinner. But listen, as culture has evolved from time to time, it has become a culture of the church that gives an idea of piety, which is not a bad thing. I'm just saying that many times the mental rigor, just anticipating the fact that to pray you need a private place, and then you need about an hour, and then you need to maybe bow your head or kneel, and all those things, all those, if you excuse these expressions, religious calisthenics, sometimes they overwhelm you emotionally, subconsciously. You think of all of the hurdles you have to cross to jump over just to pray. It ends up slowing you down. So I'll tell you this. I said this when I was talking about worship as a hack. A lot of people think that if they pray, it is more powerful than if they sing prayers, which is very interesting to me. So I'll just tell you this. As a very powerful spiritual hack, if you cannot fly, run. And if you cannot run, walk. And if you cannot walk, just crawl. There are some things I call devotional triggers. Just the same way there are triggers when it comes to sinful nature. And the Bible says, for instance, in Romans chapter 6, that if once upon a time you yielded yourself members of instrument of unrighteousness to more unrighteousness, that you should yield yourself instruments of holiness to more holiness. It means that there are some things you can do to encourage devotion in your life. I want to give you some of the most powerful things that can help you build that devotional discipline. When you wake up in the morning, if you think prayer requires a lot of discipline, how about talking? Imagine you sat up in the morning on your bed, even with your eyes open, but lifted to heaven, and you talked to your Father. Talk to your Father. You see, there was a way Jesus prayed that people realized, I need to learn how to pray again. Like he prayed like he was close to God. And he taught them to pray like they were close to God. Our Father who is in heaven. All right? This does not negate the idea of closing your eyes and praying fervently. I am just saying, this can ease you into a consistent devotional life. Just imagine you set your alarm, and that alarm is for talking to God. Talk to God. And for the first few minutes, thank Him. Just thank Him. Mention things you want to thank Him about. Thank Him for your life. Thank Him for your family. And under those key topics, there are subheadings. What about your family are you thanking Him for? Who in your family are you thanking Him for? Make that a conscious daily practice. All right. And then tell Him, what are your cares? Cast them onto Him. What are you worried about? Remember, you are talking. You are talking. There's a reason talkatives, even talkatives, think prayer is difficult or prayer requires a lot of discipline. You talk a lot. So what's the problem? The problem is maybe there is a preconceived notion on how prayer should go. Of course, apart from the spiritual warfare of your flesh, battling your spirit and hindering you from your consistent prayer life, there is also a preconceived notion on how prayer ought to be. Sit and sincerely talk to God.